Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today we have a fun 3-ingredient focus. Now, this is something that I often do for myself. I have a couple of products that I want to focus on, and then I go ahead and make lots of cards using these. It helps my brain to limit sometimes some of the items that I use, and this promotes creativity just for me. So just in case it does for you as well, here we go. I'm going to start off with a sentiment set. Now this is the Waffle Flower Birthdays set, and I'm actually going to use a second stamp set. Now this one is a little unnecessary, but it's a newer one in my stash, and I want to use it to coordinate with some of these sentiments. So this is the Art Impressions Frameworks Set 1, and I thought this could be a fun one, not only for framing some words, but also for creating some really fun backgrounds. But that is going to be for another day for the minute. And the other ingredient that I'm going to focus on is this stencil from Altenew. This one is called Vintage Motifs. Now, if you would like to follow along with me, you absolutely can, and you do not have to have these specific ingredients. Because we are working with stencils, we need some kind of color to go through them. So I've got a couple of options here. Number 1 is going to be the Brutus Monroe Cosmo Glaze. Number 2, these are some DIY oxide sprays that I just make myself. I just pop in a couple of drops of the oxide re-inkers and then top it up with a bit of water. These are going to be perfectly fun and really a good use of our re-inkers. But as I said, that's just a bit of a DIY option. You might have other sprays available, all sorts of sprays. And in fact, you can purchase proper oxide sprays, of course, and they will work too. But you could also just resort back to good old ink. You could also use some acrylic paint through a, the makeup sponge to go through your stencil as well. That's going to work well. So anything that's going to create some background. Now, just because I felt like challenging myself, and orange can often be an interesting color to choose by itself, I'm going to choose the Sweet Mango Dye ink. Now, in order to get some color on our backgrounds here, you could do a dipping technique, you could do some watercolors. I'm just choosing to put some on an acrylic block with a little bit of water and sort of just, a nice patchy watercolory sort of background. Then I'm going to take this Cosmo Glaze. This is by Brutus Monroe. Now this is the Sunbeam, something along those lines color. I can't exactly remember. This has really, I would say medium, small, medium, and maybe large-ish sizes of iridescent glitter in it. And so I was really keen to try one of these out to see which, the results that I got. I haven't tried something like this before. And so this is pretty chunky. Of course, there are many other beautiful glitters out there. You can do DIY glitters where you can just add some texture paste. You might use the transparent one if you want to, or an opaque one. Add some glitter or something like that into it as well. But for this one, I'm trying out the Cosmo Glaze and I'm going to create some background. So I'm going to stick with a similar technique just because we don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time, but I am aiming to get a good set of cards out of this. And I want to keep the ingredients super simple, and that just helps me and my brain, not get too overwhelmed by the beautiful choice of things that we have. And also, even though I don't have a huge lot myself, lots of options, I have enough that sometimes it's just enough to slow down my process and sometimes even halt it, if I'm honest. And so I just find that this works for me. So if it doesn't work for you, then that's okay too. More options is always fun. And don't limit yourself at all, but give some of these techniques a go and create some of these beautiful cards and the layouts that I'm going to do. For this one, I have some of the Sweet Mango stencils on top, just the ink straight through. And then I also have done a couple more with some of the Cosmo Glaze. I've done a mixture because at this point you can still see that there is the Sweet Mango ink that is on the front of the stencil. But, I'm not that interested in cleaning every single time when I use it. And so I'm going to pop the Cosmo Glaze on top of this. Now, I probably wouldn't put any spears or leftovers back into the jar, but I do this willingly and knowingly that I don't want to have spears. So I just go relatively sparingly on the actual stencil, and that way I use about the right amount. And I just make sure it is sort of well covered so that I can use all pieces of the card underneath. Now, in my card making, I like to have an element of shine and sort of something to catch your eye, glitter, glaze, something like that. And so that's why I wanted to give this one a go for the backgrounds. Now, let's get to stamping out some of these frames. So they just looked fun to play around with, something a little different. I don't own anything like this. And as I said, I can see these being a frame for sentiments and things, but I can also see creating backgrounds with these and focal points. So I have a couple of different things in mind, which is always good when it comes to purchasing a new item. I have used some circles from my Hero Arts Infinity Circles die set, like a nesting die set, and just found one that pretty much fit the circles. And then with these ones here, you're going to see how I go about this, because I certainly don't have a die that works for these. I mean, honestly, could you just draw these? Maybe. But as I said, for the techniques that I'm thinking of doing with them, it's not really the drawing factor that I want. I do want the stamps for this one, and for me, I felt like this was worthwhile. So you could give these a go to draw these, absolutely, and sort of do that wonky line style that I often do around for an entire border, and you could make it smaller to go around your sentiments. So you'll see that I've stamped out some of the sentiments for that and the waffle flower set. As I said, I'm limiting my ingredients that I have today, and I just find that really productive for me. Now, for these ones here, I'm going to take either long bladed or short bladed. I prefer long bladed scissors when I'm trying to do long, smooth sort of cuts. And I am just, roughly following around the outside here, not measuring, I'm just eyeballing it. And I think these actually work out pretty good. If you follow the lines, give or take, and everything, is not perfect, but I reckon it's good enough that this looks like it's almost been cut by a die. So I was pretty happy with this outcome, and this gives me a good few sentiments that I can start off with creating some of my cards. Right, let's get to creating. Now, as I said, we've got limited supplies here, so we're not going for super, super crazy. I just want a beautiful, easy set of cards, and sometimes it's about enjoying the process and really exploring products and sort of getting the hang of them, and then you think of other ways that you're able to apply them. So for this one here, I've gone into my scraps. This is some calico, so it's basically like natural undyed cotton, I believe. So it's sort of like a really natural, unbleached material version of cotton, and I put some rub-ons on these. Now, these are older. I have videos on my channel showing you how to do this. It's a really fun technique, and I had a couple left in my spares. I also have this really large roll of, I don't even know if we call this material or what this is, but I thought it might go in the background, but actually there was just too much happening. So nope, pop it away because that's plenty. I do think this is quite a busy background. Even though it was really quick and easy to create, it is quite a busy pattern. And so to give myself a nice little border to finish off some things and give your eye somewhere to sort of rest and get that solid feeling around the edges, I'm going to create a nice solid inky border. Again, we're just using the Sweet Mango ink. We're not introducing any new colors at all. I just use some low-tack tape to create a nice thick border. You could also run a pen around the outside here. You could also simply add a matting layer of cardstock. You could either ink up that cardstock, or if you have coordinating colored cardstock, then go for gold. That's going to work as well. And then for this one, I'm going to sort of offset everything a little bit. I just use glue on the back of the calico there, and it seems to work perfectly. I've got my little banner here. This is one from Paper Rose. It's a nesting set of banners that is very, very handy, and I just cut plenty of these in plain old white and store them in the back of the packaging. Just like I do those waffle flower sentiments, I actually have the dies to this one, and I just stamped one day and cut out a whole lot of those sentiments, and they can sit in the back of the packaging, just meaning at some point I get to skip a step, which is also exciting and helps with creativity if you don't have to go through every single step really thoroughly, and we can do some of the more fun bits that we want to focus on. So for this one, I've got the next one here. I have some yellow ribbon. Now, I wouldn't say all of these yellows and oranges match, but they, it's going to work. I think it's going to work. I pop some double-sided tape, in fact, 2 pieces down the center. I could have just done one piece of ribbon, but I felt like 2 just you know, it just adds that extra element. You could also add some twine. You could add all sorts, any sort of material, something to give this a little bit of texture. Even a little bit of burlap ribbon would have looked really nice. Something to give it some visual texture on the page as well as that beautiful sparkly background that we've got. And then I also have some double-sided tape on the back there, and this is just going to stick everything in place. Now, by all means, these are really simple, you know, beautiful, easy cards that I'm creating, but I had a really enjoyable time, and it's really fun to see how that Cosmo glaze is reacting. It is not really picking up any of the ink in the background, which I thought it might because it is, of course, water reactive. And also, it's that turning it to see those iridescent pieces is beautiful. And if you pop it on a certain angle, it sort of appears darker, and then you move it around and it looks lighter as the light hits it. It's an interesting product, really interesting. There are other colours of it, not too many. I think there's just a good handful of colours in case you're leaning towards a different colour, but I just thought I would try this one out. And then again, really simple here, just gone for a beautiful angled piece in the background. You could put like some lace against that long border as well, or even like a die cut border or something like that if you want to. I'm going to add some gems and things to these later on. Again, really simple cards, but just having a fun time experimenting here. This is of course the leftover piece from what I just cut, the corner that I just cut off it, and I could have left this as the full corner, but actually I'm going to trim this down a little bit, and then this is where I get the idea to why not trim this into thirds, just to do a little bit different than the previous card. And if you really wanted to, another idea to step these up, of course, would be to add in a matting layer to each one of these thirds. I think that would look really nice, even if you just did a contrasting color like a purple or a blue, a navy blue, or you could just do a beautiful black or even like a silver cardstock or gold cardstock. So lots of different options. These are sort of like the base layer. This is a base version of it, and you can take these and dress them up or, you know, add in your extra own little touches. But hopefully this just sparks a little bit of creativity, and know that these beautiful, easy cards to create are very sought after and often are some of the first ones to go out of my stash. When family and friends come over and they raid my stash, I always think, oh, they're going to go for the complicated or the fun folds, but no, actually, it always surprises me, still to this day, as to which cards people reach for. And often they'll have something in their mind that they know their recipient likes, or colours that they love, or a specific occasion, and that will also guide them as well. So you just never know what is going to be popular. I've got this one here, which the mesh that I had from earlier on, which I was going to put behind an earlier card, I think this is going to work with this one. So I do pop some foam tape on the back here to give this a little bit of dimension, but I also think that I'm going to pop on a good amount of glue because I want it to really hold that mesh in place. So this is going to sink through all of the layers and make sure that it absolutely doesn't go anywhere on its recipient. I'll hold it down for a second to make sure that the glue gets a good moment to get good contact with the cardstock and all the layers underneath it. But here are 4 cards that we created today really quickly, and you can see as I move this card around and it catches the light, and you can sort of see that stenciling more in detail as you move it in the light. But 4 really fun, easy cards to create today with just 3 main ingredients. You can swap these ingredients in and out for what you already have in your stash, but as usual, if you want to check out these ones, then there will be links in the description box down below, and of course that really helps me out, so thank you. And other than that, let me know if you've got a favourite, let me know if you've tried the Cosmo glaze, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!